All right. I first wanted to thank you, Shima, for joining us today. And I just wanted to commend you for sharing your story. And I wanted to welcome our newest member, Angela Parker. This is her first time for joining us. Welcome, Angie.
Welcome, Angela. Welcome, Shima.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me, ladies. I appreciate you all taking the time out of your day and for choosing and reading my book. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much. So tell me about your book club, Sisters with Books. How did it get started? Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, I was asked from one of the members. She wasn't able to join us today. Her name is Tawana Patrick. She asked me to if I want to join, do a book club, and I was like, okay. I said no a couple of times, but eventually I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. And that was 2019, and we got it going, and it's been going on ever since. The name actually came from our member Tabitha Franklin. She
Okay.
chose, yes, she chose the name, and we all, just voted on that the name would be great. And Tawana Patrick, the one who actually asked me to do the book club, she put a twist on the name and changed it to Sistar. So it's
Yes.
Sistars.
Mm,
Yeah, because she said we're all stars. So
yes, I love that.
yep,
Okay,
that's how it came about.
that's good. Do you mind if I ask you ladies to introduce yourself? And I want to see your t-shirts because those look super freaking cute and I want one. So you tell me who I need to bribe or buy, what I
Actually,
need to do to get a t-shirt.
actually, our member Dina is the one that made the shirts for us.
Okay,
Yes,
Dina.
I am.
Love
Yeah.
them.
Hello.
Okay.
Of course, you said my name's Dina.
Mhm.
I own a small apparel company with my family. It's called Design for Believers. So it's rather new, but we've been doing this for about 10 years now. And then I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to do my own brand. So I'm like, you know what better way to embrace believing in whatever it is that you may do. So, entrepreneur. I majored in English. I went to Morgan State University. So when I heard about the book club originally, when it was introduced to me, I'm like, can I join, please? Because I just love English. So that's kind of how I got involved for the most part.
That's good. And Dina, I'm so happy to hear that you're having a prayer company. Hey, Libby, I'm sorry, girl. You know I'll be calling you all the names. Hey, baby.
Hey,
Um,
Shima. How's everyone?
Hello.
hey,
Hey.
Libby. Good to see you. Dina, put your link in the chat box so I can put it on the video. If any of you have businesses, drop your link in the chat box and I'll post it
Sure.
with video so people can go to your businesses. Okay?
Okay,
Thank you.
Okay. Nice meeting you. Who else
Okay.
wants?
All right. I'm Tanisha Phillips.
What you gonna tell me, Tanisha? What? Oh, you. I
We
guess
were
that's.
introducing ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. I thought you was gonna tell me some more. You like, no, I'm just Tanisha. Next. Okay.
That's
Okay.
it.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Tabitha Franklin, and I teach English at a high school setting. Also,
Mm.
too, as far as businesses, my husband owns an installation tech business called Good Memory, and I have a greeting card business where I design greeting cards. Actually, I design the logo as well, so I do that just a little bit, not anything, just a little something. But I do make greeting cards for people. They ask for like special orders.
Mhm.
And I majored in English and communications, and I absolutely love English. I love books. I always have. So this was something that was right up my alley.
Good. Nice to meet you too. That's good. Never say your business is little.
It is though. It's a small business. I don't. It's not little in my heart, but it is a small.
Oh,
And I don't. Because the
okay.
thing is, the reason I said that because
Mhm.
I did get a huge order one time, and again, and I wasn't able to supply because that I had to actually put it. I had to close it to fill that order. I had to order more things.
Right.
So I like to be clear about my
Okay.
wheelhouse.
So
But
don't give me like
but I stay in
10,000
my
orders
lane.
at once.
I stay in my lane.
I feel you. No, I feel you. That has
Yeah,
happened to me before.
exactly. Because
Absolutely.
people take on too much and then they can't deliver. I'm not that person. I say what I
Right.
do. So that's why I had to do that. So that's why I make
Okay.
sure to make it.
I feel you 100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm Lydia. I know you, Shima. We used to work together 100 years ago. And I suggested the book for the book club. I'm glad you all read it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yushima, I read it for the second time for this meeting, and I figured out who Stephanie was.
Did you?
Yeah.
Names in my book, y'all, but if you know them, you know them. So
I was like, I didn't catch that the first time, but I know who it is now. I'm glad I reread it.
yeah, she contacted me. I've had a couple of contacts, like, am I such and such? And I'd be like, girl, why you say that?
Yeah, I figured it out.
Okay, good. I actually did an interview with her, so you need to check that out on YouTube.
All right.
Yeah, okay. Welcome, Livia. Thanks for choosing my book for this. I appreciate you.
Well, we actually do a drawing. So we all put in suggest a book, and then it's a drawing, and I won this time.
Yay. Well, I'm glad. Listen. Okay. Okay, Michelle, I need you, Danae. I need you, Angel, Kizzy. Come on.
Oh, yeah, and Danae is my neighbor. She's a couple of houses down from me.
Oh, yeah, she saw you shoveling because I was like, where's Libya?
Yeah, it's been a morning. It's a lot of snow.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, y'all. I'm Angel.
Hey, Angel.
I'm excited to be a part of the book club because I just needed an outlet. I always like to read. Just like in your book, picking up the pieces. I'm trying to pick up the pieces of my life and just needed something extra to do. So Tanisha invited me. We worked together many years ago before. So she invited me to the book club, and it's been good ever since, just to be in tune with some ladies that like to read and have some similar interests.
Good. Yes. I'm glad. I'm glad you're here too. Michelle, were you going to add something to your name?
I'm just Michelle.
You just Michelle? Well, we love just Michelle, honey. That's enough. That's enough for us, okay? All right. Kizzy and Danae.
Hi, I'll go. I'm Kizzy. I run a fashion consulting business called Kizzy Couture. I'm also a broker. I got invited to the book club by Taisha, and I'm very grateful because I'm just in the house with a whole bunch of kids since quarantine. So it's nice. It's nice.
Yes, it's nice to talk to an adult, honey. I'm gonna tell you.
Yes.
Welcome. Absolutely. Thank you. I'm glad you're here too. Danae.
Save the best for last.
There we go.
I got invited by Libya. She's my neighbor. I like reading books whenever I have time because it takes your mind off of whatever else is going on, and you can learn a lot. And this particular book, your book, it was very interesting because a lot of parts reminded it of me. So I'm thankful for this book so far.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad that you were able to connect to some pieces, and I'm sad that you were able to connect to some pieces, if you know what I mean. You know, some of those things were not pleasant, to say the least, but I'm glad that you were able to connect with it. Yeah. All right, good. That's it. I'm gonna turn this over to Tanisha. This y'all ball. I'm just here. Y'all tell me what you want me to do, honey. I'm just showing up. Tell me what you did. What's up?
All right. So I'll start with the first question. You stated in your book that writing was cathartic for you. So my question is, what else was cathartic for you besides writing when you were younger?
I always did poetry, spending time with my dad, anything that allowed me to be creative. I've always been a creative. My dad used to tell me that I was sensitive because I was an artist. Not artist in the sense of drawing, but I always felt hypersensitive to things. My feelings would get hurt easily, or I would empathize with people a lot. And I always felt different because of that. But he used to just speak life into me, and he used to tell me to embrace that. So whatever it was that allowed me to be creative, reading, I did a lot of reading. I remember the first book I read, the first chapter book I read that was like a grown-up book was Flowers in the Attic. And that thing changed my life. I was like, oh. And then I read Color Purple, and it was like those stories just really kind of molded my my love for writing.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for asking.
Anyone else have anything to share?
Okay, I have a question for you, Shima.
Mhm.
Shima, in your book, you moved around quite a bit for different reasons. I feel like it helped me understand it better. If you can give me a timeline of when you moved, where you moved, and for the what reason.
Okay. So
I mean, go ahead. Give me a second.
good. So I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I lived with my dad. I came here to Alabama for the summers with my dad when I turned 12, when my mom and dad divorced. So I was back and forth from Alabama to Milwaukee. When I turned 17 and I was pregnant with AJ, my dad came and picked me up to come to Alabama to have AJ. I was here with her for almost a year, for about 11 months. Then he got married and I ended up moving back to Milwaukee, and I was living on my own in Milwaukee. So from ages 17, 18, all the way up until I was like 24, I lived in Milwaukee. And then I moved to Madison, Wisconsin with my then fiance. And I was there for probably about 3 or 4 years. And then that's when my mom called, when she heard that I was getting married and I was saving up for my house. Then my mom called and wanted to be a part of my life, right? And I was like craving that relationship. So I left my fiance. I packed up the house while he was at work. I was so trash. I packed up the house while he was at work. Not the house, just my clothes and AJ's clothes. And I was just so excited to have this relationship with my mom. So I moved back to Milwaukee. It took her 2 weeks to spend all my money that I had saved, getting her car out of repossession, paying all her bills up, getting her mortgage together, just everything that she needed. Then when I ran out of money, she said I was cock blocking. And then that's how I ended up homeless and sleeping in my car for 2 months with AJ. So that second month, the end of that second month, was when I ended up staying on the floor that one night with my childhood friend. And that's when he raped me next to AJ. At the time, I had met this tattoo artist. I was just hanging out with him, and no attraction, no attraction to him. But when that happened to me, and he was like, "Look, I could get you a place." That's how I ended up with Mitch. Girl, he Mitch in the book, but his name is Mike. Let's just put him on blast, whatever. That's how I ended up with Mitch or Mike, right? And so we ended up getting married, and I was in Milwaukee that whole time. I moved here 10 years ago when my dad got sick with cancer for the second time. He asked me to come to him. So that's how I ended up back in Alabama. And so I moved here 10 years ago. I'm 43, so I was 33. And that's it. I've been here ever since. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Yes, good question. Thank you. What were your impressions about the book? What were some things that were like crazy to you, or some things that you could relate to? What was your first impression when you read it?
The transparency. It was beautiful and crazy. Like, just to be that free to tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
So that amazed me. Like, that level of honesty, I don't think you get to it. It's not common, I don't think.
Yeah, let me tell you about that level of honesty, Kizzy. This was my diary. So I had no intention on anybody reading this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I was able to be so transparent, because even today, I write in my diary and then I put the Bible verse in my diary to help me to process whatever that is that I'm going through. So on my to-do list for the end of 2019, I was like, I was going through my to-do list for everything I was supposed to do that year. And I didn't want to go into the next year with unfinished business. So I just got my stuff together and sent it to a publisher and didn't think about it anymore. I wasn't expecting to get a call. It was just one of those things that you check off the list, right? And so when they contacted me, I was like, oh, snap. I was like, can I take out some stuff? They was like, absolutely not. They was like, this is how we need it to be. And so it was one of those things that I was like, oh, okay. I just felt naked. You know what I'm saying? Because I really didn't expect them to pick it up. It was just like, don't nobody care about my life. Like, okay, this was just a to-do. And so that's what, and I'm gonna be honest with you, if I had known I was writing a book that would get published, I don't think I would have been that transparent. Does that make sense?
I think that's one of my favorite parts of the book. Like some of the stuff you share that you go through and you think you're the only person going through, even how you talked about oversharing with new friendships and just like learning how to set boundaries. Like that's not something you hear, but I know that's something I struggle with. So it was nice that somebody who looked like me, who, you know, like you're not by yourself. So hopefully everybody can have something they can relate to in your book.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. That was really hard for me at first. Like I had to embrace it now. But when it first came out, you want to talk about a panic attack. I was like, oh my God, everybody's gonna know. Before this, I was super private. Like I didn't do social media, none of that. Like I was not that girl that did anything. So my family was like, really? Like this what we doing? You know what I'm saying? I was like, I don't know who wrote that.
Have you had any pushback from your mom or anyone that you've written about in the book who know it was them that you were talking about?
My mom has not contacted me. She moved here to Alabama, y'all, and I didn't know she even lived here until my brother told me. So she had been here for 4 months before I knew she lived here. She hasn't reached out to me. But my cousin, who I did an interview with, he's in chapters. He's in the first chapter in my YouTube video. Y'all need to check that out. He gave his point of view. And like I said, my family's fairly private. And when you grow up in a dysfunctional family, of course you want it to be private because, you know, you don't want nobody knowing, you know, if you're a trash person or not. You know what I mean? So my family didn't give me so much pushback, but it was one of those things where it's like, I can't believe that you put this out there. But I changed names, and my goal was to tell my story without bashing anybody. And I hope that I was able to do that with integrity and tell my story with integrity without making somebody feel like they're the bad person. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't my intention to make people feel like anybody was the bad person. And when I was writing, and I talked to my dad before he died in 2015, I was like, Dad, I'm gonna send this book to the publisher because I had already started writing. This has been my diary for like 15 years, right? And so I was so worried about what people would think about me, you know, how people would receive it. And he just simply told me, if they wanted you to write something different, they should have treated you better.
Amen.
I agree. I was gonna say I wouldn't care. This is your story as you see it, as you recall it, and anybody have any problems with it, that's their problem. It's not yours.
Yeah, and I had to come to grips with that, but it did take a lot for me to get to that point, because at the end of the day, you still feel obligated to keep certain things private because you grew up that way. You know what I mean? Don't nothing go out this house. You better not tell nobody what's happening to you. Like, it was one of those things where I felt like a 5-year-old again. Once this was exposed, I had to rework through all the stuff that I thought I had already conquered. So that was a process. And as far as people contacting me, yes. So the guy that I wrote about when I was 16, when I got pregnant and my mom made me have that abortion, my dad had talked to his dad when this happened, like after all this happened, but nobody ever told him. So he found out by reading my book.
Wow.
And did you only have the one abortion?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
And so when he contacted me, he was like, my middle name is Kamoy. So he was like, Kamoy, I had no idea. He was like, nobody told me. And my thought was, I thought you knew because your dad knew, your mom knew, your sister knew, like your whole family knew. We went to church together. And I was like, everybody else knew, but they shielded that from him. So I had to apologize to him for not having that contact, but I thought he knew. So I was just like, you know, I didn't want to be that person to like hunt people down. And we didn't have like Facebook and all that stuff. So you literally had to call people's houses. Like, I wasn't going to be in the yellow pages looking for you. Like, no. So that was my most interesting call. And I also got a call from Isabel, and we actually did an interview together so she could tell her side of the story after she stole my car. And
okay, I watched that one.
Yeah, I did. She had to tell her side of the story, child. And then Stephanie contacted me. So those people did. And I think probably a couple other people, but it was just one of those things was like, girl, was this me? And I was like, maybe. Yeah. So that's why I changed the name now.
Are you in contact with your daughter now? How is your relationship?
She's with my mom. I moved her here. And then she left and came back. And our last conversation was when she told me that she was mad at me. And so she told somebody, my coworker, because I'm a therapist and a social worker. So it's a really small community, just like teachers, like all teachers know each other because you go to the same staff meetings, even if you're at different schools, right? So it's the same here in Alabama. So she went to her appointment and told somebody that I told her I want her daughter and her son to get raped the way she was raped, to my coworker. And so this is the level of toxicity that I've been dealing with. And as long as she's with my mother, y'all, I can't risk that, because even though I wanted her to move here, I moved her here. I put all my resources together. I called in favors. She's living in a beautiful 4-bedroom brick home here. I can't risk getting the twins and having them over here and her saying I did something to them. I'd be devastated. You know what I'm saying? That would just cause too much. And so with her still having those same patterns of just need attention seeking, I think that's basically what it is. Some untreated mental illness, of course, but that attention seeking, as long as she has that, I can't risk it. And I was just talking to my friend this morning. I was like, I really miss her. You know what I mean? Like, she was my firstborn. She looks exactly like me. I would love to have the twins here running around my house, tearing up stuff so I could yell at them. Absolutely. You know, but can I really afford to do that? Can I risk?
Oh, child, that's sad.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. What would you guys do? You read the book. What would y'all do in my situation? Because I love her and I miss her. Like, I can't even express it. I don't even talk about her. If y'all look at any of my interviews, Lydia, I know you know, I can't even talk about it because it's just so heartbreaking to me. Like, I just want to drive over there and just snatch her up and hug her too. But I think I was just so hurt by that last thing. It was just like the straw. And I had already been through so much with Mikey trying to kill me that I was like, you know, these first two, Lord, I don't know what you giving me? Like, what I do? You know what I'm saying? What I do to deserve this? So I don't know. What would you all do in this situation if this was your daughter and you just kept going through this same cycle with her? Because she's not a child anymore. So it's not like I can control the situation where it's like, okay, I can't, like, you understand now. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you're 9 and 10 and you lying because you with your stepsister. Now it's like you really trying to destroy me.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
So reading the book, I just felt like your 2 oldest kids have a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
So with that trauma, even though she is an adult, mentally she's not an adult because she still is in that traumatic state of whatever happened in that trauma, where she was in that trauma. That's what age she is. So that's why she, even though she's an adult, and that's the hard part, where you have somebody in their 20s, but mentally they're 10, they're 5. So they're doing 5-year-old behavior, 10-year-old behavior. It's very hard to kind of deal with them because you're like, you grown, but they're not grown.
Yes.
So I don't have any kids, so I don't like to touch on what I would do as a mother, because that ain't my story to tell. That ain't my process to process. But I know I'm a child of somebody. And so I have sometimes talked to my mother about some of the things that I felt she done to me. And sometimes it's very hard for parents to take on that ownership of how that child processed whatever was going on. You may be like, I did the best I could and blah, blah, blah. But that child is like, well, you could have done better. You should have did this. You know, it's very easy to do 2020, but that's just kind of like how I saw it, where it was just like, I was like, oh my God, this girl has a lot of trauma. It's like, I don't really know, you know, the boundaries. Yes, you have to set the boundaries, but it's your child. So I don't really know. You know,
Yeah.
that hasn't been my life. So I don't really know, like, can you cut your kid off, and because they are so drama filled and so detriment to your to your other piece of your family, should you still have contact with them? I don't really know. Maybe somebody that's a mother that may have dealt with that. Because it's easy for me to judge and be like, yeah, girl, that's your kid. How you gonna turn your back on your kid? Because I ain't got none.
Right. I love your answer, Michelle, and I love it from the point of view that you gave it, because you are somebody's daughter. You are someone's child. So those are the lenses that you can look at this through. But I put Andrea in therapy when she was 6 years old. So
trauma therapist?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. She's been in therapy. Look, this is what I do, right? So she's been in therapy from the very first time that I felt like something was a little off. And I did the same thing with Mikey, because I didn't have anybody to talk to. And one thing that I wanted my kids to know is no matter what, you will always have somebody to talk to. You can talk to me. And if you feel like I'm doing something wrong, and we've had those talks where she was like, well, I feel like this could have been different or that could have been different. And when I say I get on my knees and I will kiss my daughter's feet and tell her, I'm sorry, please forgive me, because I don't have no pride when it comes to my kids. At the end of the day, I need you to see my heart and not my mind. Like, I never felt offended about her coming to me and telling me, this is how I feel, Ma. Like, I feel like you was wrong in that. And I'd be like, you know what? I'm sorry. Even if her point of view is totally different than mine, I never tried to really defend myself against that, because I always wanted to validate her feelings and let her know what you feel matters. You know what I mean? It matters. And so that's why it was so hard for me to make that decision to give us this time to separate, because you have to think, I can lose my licensure, my job, my home, my livelihood. They can take my son and put him in foster care. You know what I mean? It's so many different elements that go with that. And so where's the line drawn between setting healthy boundaries and just accepting abuse and continued toxicity? You know what I mean? So it took years for me to work through that very thing, because how do you do that? How do you separate yourself from your blood? And then it goes to say, are people given a pass because they're your family? Would I allow anyone else in this world to treat me that way who's not my family? So if I strip away your title and just look at your behaviors, then it's, it's one of those things where it's like, your title can't always save you. Sometimes I have to just go by what you do and not who I want you to be, because I've operated in that space of who I want them to be for so long, it didn't work out for me. But that's good to hear from your perspective. Thank you for sharing that.
Have you ever considered, what do you call it? The monitor visit, so you can visit with your grandchildren?
Supervised visits. I have considered that. I've absolutely considered that. But I would want it to be, I don't want to do it like that. I would want it to be more authentic. I don't want it to be anything forced upon her. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't think she would have a problem with me coming to get them.
I mean, I understand she may not have a problem with you getting them, but you have a concern with what may be said or done.
Right.
With you having them. So in order to just have a relationship with your grandchildren and feel comfortable and safe about it, and so that they can form their own opinions. Because I have one granddaughter, she's 3, and I love every moment of it. Like, I can't even imagine not having access to her like that. And so I was just wondering if that was ever a consideration for you.
It was, and I've worked in the supervised visits here. And one reason why I wouldn't want to do it in that environment, work there doing supervised visits, and they don't clean that stuff, and the room is not a place where I wouldn't want to take them there, but that's the only place here that could do it. Now, I would like to do maybe record our visits. I've even thought about that, like recording our visits. When we get back to the space to where we're talking again, and once we reconcile, that would be something I'm absolutely willing to do. For me, from beginning to end, from picking them up to, you know, taking them back, or she could even bring them and sit and record, like, you know, something like that. I've even considered, because I do want, I was there when they were born, like, you know what I mean? I was there, like, in all of that. So it hurts, but I've really considered that. Thanks, Liddy.
I
Yep.
can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's hard. You ain't finna make me cry today. Is what you ain't finna do. That's what you ain't finna do.
I was going to comment and also ask about AJ and in your book, Kashima. I definitely appreciate the fact that you kind of back up what you say with the scripture. That helps a lot, you know, to kind of, like you said, soothe and heal that wound. And with children that, you know, it's hard to, once they figure out that their parents are not those superheroes, you know, the cape is off. That really gets hard. It's hard to say, do I let it go for my own well-being and my own psyche and my own security? Or do I keep reaching out and keep the door open? I just say, as a mother, you got the door open, but still secure and be within yourself. Like you said, protect your profession, protect what you work for. But, you know, the one thing that you never do is you never stop praying for them.
Oh,
you know,
absolutely.
hoping that they pull through at one point, because something's going to happen in their life where it's going to trigger and they're going to realize, I need my mother.
Yes.
And hopefully it's that time when it's not, you know, too late. So you're never a bad person for, you know, loving your child, missing your child, hurting for your child, because that's somebody that came out of your womb. That's your person, you know, automatically. And like you said, I definitely honor that, how we have to acknowledge the fact that we, you know, give our kids that bad stuff, even though we try not to, you know, but it's still pours through them. And it's just difficult when it's thrown back in our face. But I was going to ask how it, with your book, did it motivate AJ to want to write, to do anything else special with himself?
It's a girl. It's a girl, and she is. Oh, you talk about Mikey or AJ? Mikey is the one that's in the facility. AJ is my daughter with the twins.
Right. I'm sorry.
You talk about AJ?
My
daughter.
Talking about Mikey.
Okay, AJ. Mikey. Okay, that's what I was wondering. Mikey is very creative. He's into coding now, so I'm always getting him coding books and different programs for him to code. That's his thing now. He is doing super well in the facility. We're able to see him. I just posted a picture of him on my Facebook page too. He's taller than me now. The picture I posted, he's not, but it is a picture of him on there. He's taller than me. Our relationship, it's so strange because he's never really outwardly like tried to harm me without, he's not like a verbal person. He'll just do something and watch. You know what I'm saying? He was that person. So he's always come and snuggled, and, you know, he's always up under me. It's just unsafe. But yeah, we absolutely still talk to him. He is creative. I did not let him read this book because I didn't know if it would be a trigger for him. And since he's still in treatment, I didn't even want him to know I wrote the book until he's out and he's been through the program long enough that he's older. He's 15 now, and his therapist actually told him that I wrote the book. So he did ask me about the book. And I was like, when you know, in time, I'll let you know about it. But right now, I really didn't want him to have this in his mind. And since they monitor his online stuff, they only allow him on certain sites. So I wasn't really worried about him being able to purchase or pull up the book on his own. So yeah, but that was a concern of mine too when the publisher contacted me. That was a huge concern with my kids, what they would think or how they would feel about it. And again, I hope that I was able to tell their story with integrity, you know, and by exposing what I've done wrong and taking ownership in the parts that I played in the decisions that they've made, you know. So I hope that I did that and not made them seem like bad people, because they're not bad people. They're just, as Michelle said, they've been through trauma, you know, as we all have, but we all just process it differently. And I think that the way that my kids processed their trauma came because I allowed them to express themselves and to be able to And I think I may have been too lenient because although I've been through the trauma I went through, I would never do that stuff to my mom. Like, you know what I mean? I would never do that to my dad. So I feel like some of those things come from the way I parented as well because of my trauma. I feel like you can parent in fear. Like my biggest fear was my kids not loving me. And I think you can manifest the very thing that you're afraid of because what we feed grows. What we focus on, it gets bigger and it swells up. And so in my quest to never have them be angry with me or never have them to reject me caused the very thing that I feared the most, if that makes any sense. So I'm learning how to fix that with my youngest by setting boundaries and just doing things differently this time than I did before. Yeah, thank you.
I
Anybody?
want to ask what was some of Mikey's diagnosis? If you don't mind.
This is his folder. This is Mikey's binder. And I'm going to erase this out of the video, but I'll share it with you. So when I hold up my book, that's just a way for me to edit and say, you need to take this part out. Okay. So let me get some water before I read all these off. Hold on. Listen. His diagnoses include, so these are his, I have his IEPs in here, his probation, his psych eval. Here's his diagnoses. And these are his police reports. Let me show you. Those are police reports. Yeah, he has a girl, he got a file there, thick and thick. These file thick like grits, okay. Okay, let me see. Okay. Everything that they said is accurate because I can place it to his behaviors over a span of time. Okay. So since he's been doing these things, whenever he got a diagnosis, now at first when he was 6 and I took him in to Dr. Jane at the Nova Center, which is weird because I work there now, it's so odd. Full circle, the world goes full circle. And she was a little Russian lady, either German or Russian. She had a real strong accent. She was about 4'9". And when she looked at me and she was like, he's going to kill you. And I was like, he gonna kill me? What? He was 6 years old. Now he's sitting there with these glasses, girl. He's so cute. Like, he just looked like a little, you know, and when I came in to get him, I was like, this boy, what? I was like, I'm sick of y'all labeling people. Y'all don't know my, so I like went bananas. I knocked up off her desk. I was like, I ain't never coming back here. So I left. I'm like, come on here, Mikey. We're gonna find someone else that understands you. I don't know what he said in that session. I was very emotional. I was a mom. I wasn't thinking about no diagnosis, none of that. I just wanted him to talk to her about his feelings because I didn't, you know, I just wanted him to have someone else to talk to, the same I did with AJ. So when he turned 8 and I started getting sick, I was just getting sick and he was killing birds and hurting animals and lying to teachers and saying that we were skinning cats and hanging them on the patio. When these things started happening, and then he started talking about how he was poisoning us, I was like, this thing, okay, cool. So maybe she may have known what she was talking about. So when I went back to her, I was like, hey, you remember me? She was like, I knew you'd be back, sit down. I was like, okay. Then I just sat down and then she was like, no, like I was saying, and she just did her evaluation of him. And she said the same thing. She was like, and do not touch anything on my desk and I will see you in 2 weeks. And we just started going to her. Like she just kept it. It was no cushion with her. She was just not playing with. She was like, this is what you need to do. And I always took the advice from the professionals because I couldn't see it through their lenses. I just couldn't. This was my child. I couldn't. It's like the same thing at home. It's hard for teachers to teach their kids. Somebody else can teach them. It's just different, you know? So with him, I I was heartbroken because, again, I never wanted to have a disconnect with my children. And in the quest of not wanting that, I created that. Or I have to say, I took part in that. I accept my role in creating that with them. Yeah, good question.
Yeah,
Okay. You said
when I read his, I was saying he was conduct. I said conduct, oppositional. I was like intermittent. Yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, when I first read it, I was like, oh, conduct, folks.
Yes, absolutely. And the scary thing about that is, that's just a diagnosis for what? Sociopathic behaviors. When they get older, they just can't diagnose him with that when he's so young. And so you look at
when he gets a little older, it's going to be antisocial.
Yeah, they're going to, I think he has to get, I don't remember the age here in Alabama, but that's one thing that they told me when he turned 12. Every therapist he's had, well, 3, not psychiatrists, but the therapist, okay, they will call me in afterwards and they'll be like, as he gets older and bigger, you just be careful because he's going to kill you. And these therapists did not know each other.
Yeah.
So you heard him say that. He said to you, or where you guys heard him say, he's going to kill you and he's not going to stop trying until he does. Like, what does that do to you as his mother?
That, I'm gonna tell you, for a long time, Lydia, I couldn't process it. It's almost like I had to ignore it because he was still in my home and I couldn't operate knowing that he felt this way about me. So I had to compartmentalize that part of me in order for me to care for him. My husband couldn't do that because he was like, this little nigga had to get out of my house. You know what I'm saying? He was like, he trying to kill us. You know what I'm saying? So I had to be mom. Like I couldn't operate knowing or thinking. So I almost had to put myself in denial. And like I said, I was very open with them. He would talk to me about them and he would say, the voice is telling me to hurt you, to kill you right now. So we went and got bells on the door, ding dong. You know how you walk into the Chinese store, go ding dong. Whenever he opened his bedroom door, we had to have that. We had to hide the knives because he drew how he was gonna chop our heads off, which knives he was gonna use. He was gonna use the machete. I have like it's not a real machete, but it's a cutting knife. He was gonna use that on me and the one that you chop up the vegetables with on Quan. He knew the knives he wanted to use. He drew it out. Like he was always drawing us dead. So I couldn't process that until we were able to get him inpatient long term. Because had I lived in that fear with him being here, I don't think I would have been able to be the parent. You know what I mean? It was so, I had to split myself in two. And so that's when parents go through stuff like this with their kids, we need therapy too, because it made me crazy. It made me feel like I had to compartmentalize and become all these different people for everybody in my family without feeling. I wasn't allowed to feel. So when I had my breakdown, that's why, because all my parts of me was like, girl, when you gonna let me out? I'm coming out now. Like all of them came out and I just lost it. You know what I mean? Everybody came out at the same time. So I couldn't even process it. I'm just be real with you. It was, because when I saw him, I saw my baby. I nursed you. You know what I mean? Like I took care of you. I loved you. I protected you. And it just didn't make sense to me. And I just felt like I was being punished. You know, I just felt like I was being punished for marrying somebody I shouldn't have married, procreating with somebody I shouldn't have had a baby with. And so I just felt like, well, this is my punishment, you know.
I don't know if I can ask this, but I'm gonna ask because we know someone else that he has a child with, right? The tattoo artist. Mm-hmm. That's his son, right? Mm-hmm. So are you aware of any issues that she's having with her son with this same person? Like,
he has several kids, girl. He got several kids.
Yeah, but the one we know in common, like, I wonder if she have any of those issues from their shared.
Oh, B.
Yeah.
Yeah, girl, so he was in contact with his brother. I wanted them to stay in contact, but I'm not sure. I think she was so angry with Mitch, how he did not step up for her son either, that she just wanted to be done with the whole lot of us. You know what I mean? So I haven't had any contact with her, but I know that at one point she wanted him to go stay with Mitch because I think it was more like experimenting out here with the wrong crowd and stuff like that. Now, was there any MI issues? I don't know, but I'm sure it had to be.
Yeah,
sure
I just thought about that. I just thought about that just now. I was wondering.
I forgot you know her. Absolutely. Yeah. That would be interesting. I might reach out to her and see how he's doing, because, and I'm gonna tell you, y'all, we pass down more to our kids than our eye color, honey, and our skin color. We pass down our crazy and our good, and when you have two parents who have MI issues, either with us or our parents, in our family, man, we setting them up for failure. It's like some things we just don't think about. That hindsight is so 2020, y'all. I would never wish this on any parent or any child. I would never wish this on anybody at all.
So can I ask, like when they were telling you all these things about like when he had the conduct disorder, did they ask you or suggest to you to place him in long-term care, and you just didn't at the time, or you had to process it? Like what happened in regards to that?
I couldn't do it. Several people had wanted him at the time to go into long-term recovery, but I wanted that to be I wanted to do everything I could before I went that route, because he was so young. He was 8 the first time a therapist told me to do it. And I was like, I'm not letting my 8-year-old, and then I was thinking about the trauma that happens in these facilities and I can't be there. Like, I just couldn't do that. And so when I say I tried everything I could before it got to the point to where it was just unbearable, I did everything I could. So when I made that decision, and actually it was made for me because of the last thing he did, but when it happened, I didn't feel that guilt, like, okay, I did everything I could. So I was able to be okay with it, because I feel like at 8 years old, that was just so young. And I felt like he still needed me. And he was so little, like, even though he was doing all this stuff, he was a tiny boy, so I was just picturing him in that facility with all those bigger kids and all these perverts that be working in these places. And I emotionally wouldn't have been able to handle it. It wouldn't have been a good thing for me at that time. He probably would have been fine, but for me, I wouldn't have been able to process it. I wouldn't have been okay. So when it happened on time, because now he's bigger. I can't physically control him. I can't, if he wanted to come and get me in my sleep, it would be very little I could do. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a teenage boy now, and it's nothing I could do about that. And I don't see him as that little frail 8-year-old anymore. Good question, though.
So are they saying he's going to stay there forever? Like, what's the long-term?
His long-term plan?
Yeah.
So him and I had this conversation, and one thing that I talked to his caseworker about and his therapist was about is just, I don't feel safe with him here. With me walking in and him choking Jack, when he was 6 years old, till he almost passed out, with him poisoning us over the course of several years, setting fires, no matter what I did you can't put everything up. You know what I'm saying? Like, he will find a match, like, y'all, he will find stuff, or he'll get stuff from school, you know what I mean, and bring stuff home. He had a knife in his book bag that I found one day. So I was like, he can't be here. I will come and see him wherever he is, but he can't be here. And so that was a conversation we had, and he understood, he agreed that would be it. But for right now, where he is right now, it's a good fit for him. And so long term, he is seen to be, he's going to be there. And when he gets out, I'll help him get settled and, help him get his apartment and help him get into school. I'm still his mom, but as far as him residing and living with me, I can't do it. But everything else he needs, I would absolutely be there for him. Yeah.
Okay, I just,
I'm
you
sorry.
go, Tabitha. Go ahead.
It actually, I wanted to switch gears a little bit. The question I had is a quote that you said. You said, I wanted to be the best parent, wife, daughter, friend, and counselor I could be. Obviously, you wear a lot of hats. One thing you did not mention was sister, though. And I noticed the absence of your brothers in the book. And I just want you to talk about their relationship a little bit. And if you think their absence had anything, would it have been different? Had they been around? Just I want you to talk about their place in your life.
Okay, so my one brother, Gary, he's serving life in prison for murder. So he's in Connecticut. And that's that. I didn't meet him until I was maybe 20 years ago. We were adults. And my brother was in Connecticut visiting our family. And he was dating this, well, my cousin was dating this girl. And my cousin introduced my brother as Triple C. Curtis Crawford Cherry, right? He's a junior. And so the girl my cousin was dating was like, yo, Curtis Crawford Cherry. She was like, my brother is your brother. Your dad is my brother's dad. And so we had heard about Gary. My dad has talked about him our whole life, but his mom was married when he was conceived, and she was like 15 years older than my dad. Like my dad was real young. She was like real grown and real married. And so she raised him as if it was her husband's child. She even named him after her husband. And so that's how me and Gary connected. That's how we reconnected. So we write each other and stuff like that. It's been a while since I've written him though, but we kept in contact like that. My other brother, Curtis, we talk. I mean, he wasn't too happy about the book. He has not read the book. He refuses to read the book. We have a decent relationship. We talk, like if he needs me, if he needs to talk and vent, we talk. You know what I mean? So at what point do you just say, it is what it is? But he's still in contact with my mom. And, I ask him how she's doing, if, she's okay and stuff like that. But
Well, since you was on that one, I had a question about that. So that's when you were 8 years old and that brother's friend molested you. And what I read was that he whispered in your ear that he loved you. And I wanted to know if that was the extent of the molestation, because I think that's all that I read. Or was there more?
He molested me from age 8 to 14. I think that was the last time, maybe 14 or in my early, like 14, maybe 15, maybe 14, about 14. No, it was, in my mind, he had groomed me. This was my boyfriend. I didn't know it was a molestation until I was older and I recognized that this wasn't right. It was secret. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was one of those things where he would be like, well, I don't want you to get in trouble. So, you don't want to tell nobody so you don't get in trouble. So then it was that shame and that fear that he put in me. And then he was like, you don't want me to get in trouble, right? Because you love me. It's just real messed up. So that's why when I was doing my workshops for parents and for children, one thing that I taught them was how grooming looks. Because it's a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. It starts with the compliments. And it didn't happen until my mom and my dad got divorced. I was 8 when my dad moved out. And so that just opens up the home when there's no dad there for you to be easy prey. For you just easy prey. It wasn't no guy there. My dad was all the way in a whole different state, or he just wasn't in the home. So, because he never did that stuff when my dad was there. Him and my brother been friends since they were kids. I would never have expected that. So he did that for a long time. And when I did tell my mother about it, she was like, so it happened to me. I'm fine. You'll be all right. What you do? What was you doing? So it was one of those things where she was just like, it was so dismissive that I was like, oh, let me just, okay, so it is my fault, so I never mentioned it again.
Sorry, y'all, I'm not trying to be greedy here. But you just brought up your mom and the attempted suicide part that I read, and the things that you say your mom said to you. Like, you don't even know how to kill yourself. You should have did this, that, and the other. That I was just like, wow, that is so harsh. And I know a lot of us have not the best relationships with our mothers. And when your mom said those things to you, like in that moment, how did that feel to you? Or did it even matter because you already had such a volatile relationship?
When I say my mother always said stuff like that to me, I was hurt, but I was numb at the same time. Like, I didn't expect anything different from her. And if you all had seen my dad's face, because he was like maybe this will, make her feel better. And my mother talking all this, and I'm on the gurney. I'm on the gurney, I'm laying there. They got me strapped down because, they strap you down when you're suicidal, because if you're suicidal, they think you homicidal. Anyway, so I'm on the gurney, I'm strapped down, and my dad holding the phone, and he just looking so hopeful, like maybe this will snap her out of it. She's going to tell her she loves her or something. And so after she finished saying what she said and hung up, my dad was like, you feel better? Are you better? And I was like, yeah, Dad, thank you. Because that would have devastated him, you know what I mean, for him to know. But when I got older, I told him about that. And I talked to my mother about it. She was like, sure did. If you're going to kill yourself, do it right. Like when she said right here in my dining room, it was like, girl, if I had known about abortion, she was eating my food that I had cooked for her. She had came here to visit. In front of my kids, in front of my family, she was like, girl, if I had known about abortion, I sure would have had an abortion with you. Give me some chicken. Go and get the chicken. Like, this is literally just how, and my husband was like, wait, what? Like, what'd you just say? And my Mikey was like, what's an abortion? And I was just like, so it's
whether or not I don't have a problem cutting people off out of my life like that. I don't care what the relationship is. And it took me a long time to get to that point where I realized, I don't care if it's mama, grandmama, sister, brother, whoever, if you are just toxic in my life and I can't be who I am around you, I will cut you off. I will love you from way over there, because that is crazy.
Yeah. I didn't even know it was abuse. When she beat me with her cane when I was 26 and I was holding Mikey and I was just covering him. I was literally like this. I was nursing him, first of all. So I'm trying to like readjust and so as she was hitting me over my trapezes, which I still have problems with to this day, and I was shielding his head, he was only 4 months old. And I didn't even think of that as abuse because it had happened so much. I'm 26 with kids and a husband. And you still have the audacity to continue to abuse me, because grooming comes in more than one way. We treat people how to treat us. And so since if I'm little and this is what you've been doing my whole life, when you got, when I got older, it was just my relationship with my mom. And so for me, it was one of those things when my friend was like, you know what, this is not okay. Had she not been there, y'all, it probably would have just went on and I wouldn't have even, that kind of snapped me out of it. Like, you know what, this is not okay. You're in front of my kids, you're scaring the kids. And even though Mikey was only 4 months old, he would not, when I say he wouldn't go around her, he would scream bloody murder.
Kids know.
Yeah, when he saw my mom, even when it was a woman that looked like my mom, he would scream and he would just grab me, like in fear. And he was 4 months. So we think kids don't internalize stuff like that. We think kids forget that. And even if their brain can't remember why they feel this way, their body remembers, their body knows, right? Their body keeps score. I love that. Their body keeps score. That's a really good program. I know you don't talk about Michelle, you shake your head. So that's a really good program because our bodies do keep score. If you go around somebody and you just don't feel right, you know what I'm saying? So she had created that in him, and seeing that reaction in my kid, that's what made me be like, whoa.
Have you ever been physical with your mom, like the abuse and into your adulthood? Because at 26, I wasn't going. I mean, not with my mom, no. I don't do that anymore.
No, I've never. Now, AJ has had knockdown dragouts with my mother, the very woman who kidnapped her, right? She couldn't handle her and control her. AJ, they done scrapped, but I think I've held my mom in this special place in my heart where if I just loved her enough and allow her to do what she wanted to do, it was this twisted thing in my mind where I felt like she would finally love me or accept me. If I don't treat her how other people would treat her, then maybe she would accept me. It just never even crossed my mind to hurt her, ever,
I have a question about your mom. Since we're talking about her, you stated that you was physically and verbally abused until 26. My question is it possible that when it's our loved ones that we can't see abuse clearly, meaning if it's verbally or emotionally?
Absolutely. I was doing workshops on how to prognosticate child sexual abuse, and neglect. I was traveling the nation teaching thousands of people how to protect your kids, and I wasn't even protecting myself because I didn't see it as abuse. This was just my relationship with my mother. It's what I needed to accept in order to have her in my life. So if for me to have her in my life, if she needed to call me whores and stupid, her missing graduations and those things, I was so deprived. I was so lost and so broken that I was willing to accept that. And it's like being in any other abusive relationship. It's like being in an abusive marriage, abusive relationship with a husband, because it wasn't always all bad. Sometimes she would give me a glimmer of something. Sometimes she'll say, "Oh, I like your hair like that." And I would just be like, it would be like, "Oh my God," you know what I mean? Because abusers give us just enough to hold on, to crave more. And then the cycle repeats itself all over again. But they have to give us just enough. They have to give us something in order for us to stay in that abusive relationship. So it was just a typical abusive relationship. And I just loved her so much that I didn't want to lose her. And so if this is what I needed to endure to have that relationship with her, I did. And I just stopped talking to her 2 years ago. Like, you know what I mean? That's how 2 years, like she was still a part in my life, a daily part with everything she did. So it was a process to let that go.
Why did your mother favor your brother?
That's what I meant to tell y'all earlier when I can't remember who was talking earlier. That's what I was going to say. So I had a talk with my mom, and it was when I was going through my healing process. Biblical Concepts Counseling, y'all. I don't know if y'all ever heard about that, but it's a program that you can buy. It's a workbook. And working through that workbook, one of the things that it talked about was seeing my mom or an abuser as a person and removing that title. So when I was going through that, I called her. She was living in Connecticut. I was here in Alabama. And so I asked her questions like, well, what did you want to do, growing up before you had kids? She said she wanted to be a teacher. And, I asked her just things about her life. And one of the things I asked her was, why do you not love me? Why do you love Curtis, but you don't love me? And she was like, to be honest, I don't know how to love you. She said, I just don't. She said, and you raise the girls and love the boys. That's something I've always been taught. It's just how it is. And I asked her, I said, do you think it's because of my dad? Because I look like my dad, I act like my dad, I have his personality. And she said, that could be it. She said, that could be it. She was like, but I did the best that I could with you. And I just couldn't, I couldn't do anything different. So as we got older, I started telling her I love her. Every time I talked to her, I would just tell her I love her. And she started saying it back. And so for me, that was like such a huge thing, but I don't know if that was just something that she felt like she needed to say, or if maybe she started to really feel that way, So that was another thing that kept me in that relationship. Maybe if I can just talk to her and show her I'm a good person if I'm smart enough, if I can get another degree, she'll be proud of me. You know what I mean? Like all these different accomplishments that I tried to do to just become something that she could love, appreciate something. But she flat out told me, you love the boys and teach the girls. And that was just, she was very open and honest about it. Like we had that conversation. So,
Okay, so I know you can't go through life just focus on trauma, right? Otherwise you just be like just
right.
ineffective. So like what's your happy place? Like what motivates you? Because you're not in the corner somewhere crying. Like you still
No.
So I want what encourages you?
Oh my gosh. Just helping other people heal from their trauma. And I know it's still a part of trauma, right? But just seeing people coming out of that dark place, I can talk about this now because I've come through it. It doesn't affect me like it used to affect me when I was in the thick of it. Knowing that I am in a place where I have achieved every dream that I've had so far, and I'm still continuing to grow and achieve those things. But I didn't get to this place until I let go of those toxic parts of me, those toxic relationships. So I'm not picking up every piece of me. Some of them pieces I'm gonna let go and go to the wayside. You feel me? I'm picking up the pieces of me that's gonna help me to move forward in my life. So my happy place is continuing to write. My next book isn't so full of sadness and, the trauma. Is more motivating and uplifting, funny even. I have workbooks coming out because that's what I used to do, programs for victims who were abused and how to come through that dark place in your life. But my family, my husband, my son, Jack, even thinking about the good times that happened with my mom, my dad. My mom taught me my work ethic. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate that the book was just about all the traumatic things. So in my next book, I am highlighting some of the lessons that I learned. It's not all bad all the time, right? My mom taught me my work ethic. She taught me how to be strong in a relationship. She said, she asked my dad, they got married when she was 17. My dad was 19. And she said she remembered asking my dad permission to go to her friend's party. And he was like, no. And she said she sat in her room and she cried, child. And she said she called her friend like, I can't come to the party. Curtis said no. My dad's name was Curtis too. And so she said her friend was like, girl, it's your husband, ain't your daddy. You don't ask him if you could come to my party. She was like, girl, you better go tell him what time you coming home and just, So she went in there and she was like, I'm gonna go, I'll be back at such and such time. My brother was already born. So she was like, here go Curtis, there go his passport, da-da-da. And she left. And so that was one thing that she taught me. She was like, you never ask anybody for permission. You do what you feel that you need to do. You know what I'm saying? She always taught me how to be in a place at work where you have relationships with everybody. My mom used to go on 3-hour lunch breaks with the vice president because of her personality. Everybody at work be pissed at her. But because, she didn't treat them the way she treated me, of course. So my mother is funny. She's pretty, like, you would never know, just like with anybody that is abusive. She's everything to everybody. That's why people were so shocked when they read the book, like, your mama, unless you knew, you didn't know. And so she taught me how to go into work and you do your job. And she taught me how to play the game. You play their game. This is what you do. So she put me up on that type of game too. So those are my happy places when I think about that, when I think about how far I've become, and when I think about God and how in those dark places when I felt like I was alone, how he was still there. And he shows me those times when I was in my darkest spaces, how he was actually bringing me out of that. I had to go through this stuff so I'll know what not to do again. If I had never been through this, I would still be going the same cycle. And he also taught me the importance of obedience, because most of these situations I put myself in. To be perfectly honest, I shouldn't have married Mike. He told me from the beginning not to marry him. So me marrying him, I had Mikey, right? That was a whole different can of worms. The situation with my mom and AJ, I should have severed that relationship with my mom way before instead of allowing her to infect AJ. You know what I mean? So it's so many different things that I did that I could do differently now that had I not gone through, I wouldn't know any better. So even though my dad is gone, he's still my happy place. The lessons that he's taught me, how to love and nurture and respect everybody. He taught me about God. So my life is much better now, going through the process of healing and allow myself to sit in those feelings, allowing myself to feel what I needed to feel when I couldn't feel it when I was in it. You can't heal in the midst of turmoil when you're still fearing your life every day, wondering what your son's gonna do, you know what I'm saying, to you, or fearing the conversation that you need to have with your mom. Once all of those barriers were removed, I was able to start really working on me. I lost 100 pounds. I started working out. I'm in a totally different place now. When I say I'm a whole new person, I'm literally a whole new person. But I couldn't get here until I had to let that old stuff go, because there wasn't no room for this Yushima. I couldn't fit in that life. They didn't go together. So I'm happy now. I'm in a much better space now, Kizzy. So Kizzy like, girl, don't get off here and go slit your wrist. I'm good. Thank you, though.
I wanted to say, like, it's such a difference in how the moms and dads love the kids. Like when someone asked you if you were advised earlier to put Mikey in long-term care and you couldn't do it, that's my baby. And the daddy, your stepdad, daddy, like, oh, that nigga got to get up out of here
real quick.
It's so
right.
funny how we as mothers like coddle and love our kids, or try to, through any and everything, even when we can't help them, and how dads be like, oh no, you got to go.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that's funny, and it's not uncommon that that's how the difference between the moms and dads and how they handle the different situations.
Yes, and I used to be very resentful to Quan because I unrealistically wanted him to have the same grace that I gave Mikey. But had he done that, we would be dead today. So I really needed that balance because I was all in. And again, I couldn't be the protector because I had to be the one to nurture and care for him. You know what I mean? So Quan needed to be that one to set those boundaries because I was over here. I need to still take him to therapy. I got to still, when he hurt himself, I got to show up. You know what I mean? And Mikey would do something to me. He would do something to one of us and still be like, he'll hurt himself or act like he's hurt so that it'll take the shift off of what he did so he'll have to be cared for. And when I mean hurt himself, he would eat peanut butter so he'll have to go to the emergency room. It wasn't just like a small thing. He would do drastic stuff to get the negative attention off himself. Now you got to care for me and I can hurt you at the same time. So his IQ was very high at a very young age. And you know, when you have people with that high IQ, they're always a step ahead of the game. Like he was planning stuff out. I'm just trying to be a mom. Now I got to be a psychotherapist, a therapist, a CSI agent. I can't just come home and chill. I got to try to map out your next move. What you going to do today? You know what I mean? So I was always on high alert. Where Quan was the one that was like, okay, at this time, you need to be in your room from this time to this time. When you come out, you go to the bathroom and you go back in your room. It wasn't one of those things where he was the soft parent. Now, he tried to be, but Mikey continuously let him know that you're not my dad. So you can't tell me what to do. This man been in your life for 10 years. Where your daddy at, though? You know what I'm saying? Like, so he did recently say that he regrets pushing us away, that he knows now that Quan was just trying to help him, but he just wasn't ready to receive that. Michael can verbalize his feelings very well because I've always talked to my kids like they were little adults. Because if anything ever happened to them, I needed them to be able to express what happened exactly. That's your penis, that's your anus, that's your scrotum, this is your testicle. Like I've always taught them the proper terms, especially after Andrea was molested in daycare. I needed them to know, because if they have to go to court and testify, the judge don't want to hear about your cookie in your pocketbook. He don't want to hear about your wee-wee. Like, he needs to know technical terms. If somebody did something to you, I teach my kids about grooming. I teach them all those things, that those conversations, those hard conversations we need to have. So to protect them, to help them to protect themselves too.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of referring to balance you're talking about. So I just kind of wanted to know, how do you balance or communicate with others effectively being an introvert? I feel like it's a lot of people don't really understand the need for both, or kind of that space for both areas a little bit.
Right. Oh, that's good. With me, I just came into this thing where I have recognized when I need to separate myself and tone it down and be alone. I get my energy from being alone, but I do enjoy being around people, right? So when it's time for me to hang out with my girls and do stuff, and I used to just be booked and just constantly going, and I would feel myself being so drained because I never took the time to fill myself back up. My happy space is at home, under the covers, fuzzy socks. You feel me? Like, I don't need to be out here in these streets in order for me to feel good. So just having a happy balance and making sure I check in with myself to see when it's enough, when it's too much, and when it's time to go out again. I no longer feel obligated to accept every single request. I've learned that people won't die if I say no, that I'm not God and I need to let God do his job. So it all just came down to boundaries, just not being overly accessible. When we become too accessible, people take that for granted, and we end up resenting them for us not being able to say no. You know what I mean? So now I have come to a place to where if I don't feel like doing something, I weigh the importance of it, because I'm not going to always not do it because I don't feel like doing it. That's unrealistic, right? If a friend needs me to show up, I'm going to show up, like whatever you need. But if it's just something that can wait, or it's not something that is major, I make a decision. I weigh in. No, not this time. I don't mind saying no. So my healthy balance came in learning how to say no without feeling bad about it. Because I used to say no and then mull over it. And I would send these long text messages. Well, I'm only saying no because I'm tired and I done been through this. And now I just be like, girl, not today, girl. Call me. You let me know. Take some pictures, let me know how it goes without feeling bad, because I've learned that people do what makes them feel good. So why not me? Your feelings not more important than my feelings. Your wants not more important than my wants. You know what I mean? And when I did that shift and I started looking at the world like that, like what makes their wanting me there more important than me needing my rest? Where's my values here? And once I learned that, girl, I'll be like, You know what I'm saying? I'm like, no. And they're used to it now. Because at first they was like, so you ain't gonna, like, they didn't know how to receive it. And I have lost some friends because I had takers in my life, right? I had takers. We all have met takers, and we have all been the ones that they sucked dry at one point in our life. And so those people fell off because they weren't used to this Yushima. They were used to the yes ma'am, the people pleaser. So those who I lost, they needed to be left or lost. And I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
Good question. Anybody else?
I just want to say, or ask about, what do you think are some steps you can take with AJ? Because with my oldest son, I noticed that we always bump heads or whatever, but I have to have my conversation short with him and just grow eventually. And as soon as he does or say something, I have to cut him off for a little while. Then he'll click in his mind, oh, I need to talk to my mother, and then he'll call. But he can go weeks or months without talking to me. So I was just trying to see have you started like something small to build your relationship with AJ?
Good question. So now I'm just praying for her. I'm praying for her, and I want it to happen authentically. The thing is, I would have her in my life every day, y'all, if I could. But it's like playing with fire. And mind you, she's with my mom. So when you have somebody hyping you up to do foolishness, for some reason, my mother just wants to ruin my life. You know, I'll never understand why. But when you have someone in your life that's toxic, and she's taken on so many of those traits, unfortunately, that it's really nothing I can do to mend that relationship. It would have to be some drastic changes that's made on her end. So I'm open for the conversation with her. We were able to talk on the phone and we were able to do those things. But even with me setting those healthy boundaries in place, she still went and told my coworkers that I wanted her child to get raped. I said, why did you say that? I was just mad at the time. What was you mad about? Because her and I had a conversation, and I said, Andrea, now every parent has said this to their kids who has kids. I said, Andrea, I hope you never have to go through what I went through with you or Mikey. I said, I just wish the best for the twins, and I just want you to make sure you stay on top of them and do the best that you can. And she took that to say that I wanted her kids to get raped. So, and after her having a conversation with my mom, I'm sure, my mother's probably like, yep, that's what she meant. Or, you know what I mean? So they have that toxic relationship where they feed off of each other. So I'm not sure what I can do to mend that, to fix that, because you telling people I want your kids to get raped, and I'm teaching groups on how to prognosticate child sexual abuse and how to protect your children. And you know what I mean? It's just such a juxtaposition to who I am that I'm afraid. I'm afraid to allow her in my space right now. You know, so I'm hoping, I'm praying, I'm not just hoping, but I'm praying that things will change and something will happen. It's gonna have to be a God thing, because there's nothing I can do. I wake up, I think about her every day. When I look in the mirror, I think about her every day, you know. So I don't think the Lord will let our lives go by without us being able to reconnect on some level. I just can't believe that. If I could still have a relationship with Mikey, I can absolutely have a relationship with AJ. Something just is going to have to make her say, this is not okay for me to continue to do to my mom. And I think one of those things would be her setting healthy boundaries with my mom, with my mother, until she does that, because she wants to please my mom. My mother is a person that you want to please. And I don't know if you ever met somebody like that, that just pulls you in and makes you feel like you have to please them, you know? So I understand the pull that my mom has on her. So that's another reason why I'm able to be empathetic to that. But I don't know, Danae. I don't know what else I could possibly do. You know, it's like somebody beating your face in and you trying to just not get your face beat in. You know, when you go back to them, no matter what you do, if this is how that person is, it's how that person is. But I'm absolutely praying that we can reconcile, because I do miss her. She's so funny. She's funny. She's just everything, you know, and I know she needs me. I know she needs me. I could feel it. You know what I mean? I could feel it in my spirit that she needs me. And I just hope that God will open up the door for us to be able to come together, not under tragic situations, like, because that's always happened, right? A funeral, you know what I'm saying? Oh, my mama died or something like that. I don't even want it to get to that place. I just want her to realize, like somebody said earlier, they're going to realize, like, you know what? I need my mama, but I know I need to treat her better. You know what I mean? Like, I know I can't do this. It's not okay, because she's not a child anymore. So the stuff that you say, it holds weight. You know what I mean? It hurts me. It hurts me. So Yo guess is as good as mine, honey. I don't know. But as soon as we do reconnect, I'm gonna let everybody know. Cause listen, and what I wanted to do when the book first came out, I wanted to interview her and my mom about how they feel about the book. I wanted to send them a book if they didn't get it, which I'm sure they got it. I'm sure somebody got it for them because our family messy like that. They was probably like, girl. But I would love to interview them so they can tell their side of the story. You know what I mean? Like, how did you feel about this? Or what really happened? What were you thinking when this happened? I would love to get to a place where our family could do that. So maybe gotta let it happen. That'd be awesome.
Where did your mother hurt and anger originate from?
So my mom grew up, and I asked her that too, good question. I asked her if anything ever happened to her. My mother would say things out of anger, like it happened to me and I'm okay, but when I sat down to talk to her about it, it's just something that she never talked about. My dad, they grew up together. They met when my mom was 11, my dad was 13. So my dad would go over to my mom's house and there would be this older man there, always having my mom sit on his lap. And it was just very inappropriate. And this man would always run my dad off. And my dad would be like, that's not your daddy. My granddad lived around the corner from them, but he had a whole separate life going on. And if y'all back in the day, our grandparents didn't get divorced. So my grandmama stayed married to him. He had a whole nother family. He had a whole nother life around the corner. Like you could walk to his house. So my mom had these two separate parents in these two different houses. And I don't think she saw her dad, even though he lived right around the corner. So this older man was showing her this inappropriate attention. Again, my mom's very beautiful. And so I'm sure some inappropriate stuff happened with her then. My grandma worked a lot. Again, she raised them alone. So it's no telling what she saw. And I don't know if she would ever disclose that to me. But my grandmother was never one to give hugs either. Like I would hug her when I was little and she would be stiff. I hug my mom and she's stiff. They just get real stiff. It's like they don't like people touching them. So I'm sure that some things have happened that she may have either blocked out or she just want to forget. But until she gets the help that she needs from that stuff, it's going to continue to manifest itself in this way, I believe. But I know it has to be some type of trauma, Tanisha, because why else? You know what I'm saying? Like, why else would you be like this? But it's crazy because then again, she's not like this to everybody. So it could just very well just be me. I don't know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
Me too.
Because I know sometimes, they say when people are abusive that they are abused. So I was like wondering, where did this originate? Has she ever talked to you about that?
I tried to talk to her. I asked her if she used to get spankings, like if they used to like get like beaten stuff, and she said no. My grandmother wasn't on drugs or anything. Like this was an era where they just worked hard. They came home, you did your part, and that was it. It wasn't no talking in the house. Like she couldn't say how she felt about anything, I'm sure. But no, I would love to know though, and that's why I'm hoping that she will be open when the time is right for us to have that conversation. I would love to know. It would help to humanize her.
I'm wondering, is it something with your mother that made something in you that may remind her something of her, or or something that she can't tell you that she sees in you that maybe make her reject you or act like that? Like we said, your body keeps the score. So maybe something happened to her that maybe she can't remember, something she sees in you that reminds her of something that happens to her, or how she felt, or how she could have been possibly.
You know what? That's $1 million question. That is $1 million question. And when I see her or talk to her, I'm gonna absolutely ask her that,
It could be something
very well
small.
could be. It could be.
Small, yeah.
It very well could be. It could be something because, when we see in others, if we don't like it, it could very well be something that she sees in me that reminds her of herself. Wow. I don't know. That is.
Or maybe she wants to obtain that you are doing and she couldn't. You just never know.
And that's good too, because she said she wanted to be a teacher. She wanted to go to college, but she got pregnant at 17, and so she didn't finish school. I dropped out and I just went back and just kept going back. Like, I like going to school better than working, child. If I could go back now, I would, okay? But I don't feel like doing no dissertation, no PhD. I ain't gonna do all that. I'm gonna stop here. But I think it might be some resentment. Ooh, Angel, you just brought up a whole nother thing. Girl, I'm gonna need some wine after this. But it could very well be some resentment for her feeling like I took something from her.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, my dad was a great dad. I just had this conversation with my sister this morning. My dad was a great dad, but he may have been a trash husband a little bit. And I was a daddy's girl. And I feel like she feel like I took his side. You know what I mean? Because I would always defend him when they would talk bad about him, because it would just hurt my heart, because he was the one, when I came, and this may be TMI, I'm gonna edit this part out too. Let me just hold my book up. All right. When I came on my period, my dad was the one to tell me what was going on with my body. Like, I just thought I was bleeding to death. Parents didn't talk to their kids about that stuff back then. So I was in the 6th grade. I had on my new jumper with the white top and the little sea green bottom. It was a one-piece jumper, and I was just so cute. And I stood up and I was freaking out. And my friend Tanisha, we still friends to this day, she gave me her sweater to go into the bathroom, and I went to the nurse's office, and my dad came and got me, and he explained how, what I needed to do. He gave me the talk. My mother said, "Oh, you bleeding now? Just don't get pregnant, ho." I was like, what that mean? What pregnant got to do with me bleeding with me dying? I'm like, I didn't understand. So my dad was always the one to just come up and pick up those pieces that were just shattered from not getting that from my mom. So of course I'm gonna gravitate to the one that loves me, like, you know what I'm saying? But I was punished for that, And so it could be all of these things that you mentioned. It could be all of these things, you guys. Her trauma, I remind her of something in herself. She could resent me because I'm doing things that maybe she wished she could have done if she had just kept going. And the relationship that I had with my dad.
Exactly.
All of those probably gets on her nerves. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure it does.
Yeah, because personally, I had that issue with my mother, and she finally told me that me personally, I sickened her because my father didn't give her the treatment that she wanted from him. And because I was so much like him and I gravitated like you to him, it sickened her and made her be more forceful on me. And I'm the only girl and I have all brothers.
Yes.
So because I was lacking that male relationship with her own father, but had him in her life. And then here I come along, I'm a girl, I'm a female, because my mother would talk to me the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Very harsh, very just whatever, very, make it if you can type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And she finally said, well, it's just because, I didn't get what you get from your father. And regardless of whatever I do to myself, even though I look so much like her, she's like, you're not me. You're not what I anticipated. You're not what I wanted.
Mm.
But like, I can deal with a girl. I mean, I can deal with a boy, not with a girl, loving her father and having these personality features as her father, but also she expressed that she said, I'm afraid for you. What happened to me that I can't tell you about may happen to you in your life.
Mm.
So it could be, right? And she was only able to tell me, after her father passed. But as I read your book, that brought up memories in my mind, thinking that the way that, your mother would say things to you and be nonchalant and just, just not caring, because maybe that's what she felt, what she gets, and she just pouring it back out.
Girl. Dang, I'm gonna need some donuts too. Y'all ain't finna stress me out today. That is so real. Shut up. How my dad treated me. could have also been a trigger because, like I said, he wasn't the best husband. My dad was pretty handsome. The ladies liked him. Okay. The ladies liked him in the church. You know, pastors, you know, they got to pick it a little. I ain't saying that he did nothing. I ain't going to incriminate nobody. He done passed away, rest his soul. But women used to, you know, he had to have prayer meeting with them every now and again. Maybe it was 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know their business, but I just know he used to get telephone calls and he would run and pray for Sister Jones because Sister Jones needed to pray. So I'm sure that pissed my mother off. And whenever I called him, when I say he would drive from Alabama to Milwaukee, pick me up, come back to Alabama and go straight to work. And I don't think he gave her that. You know what I mean? But with me being young, I didn't know what a husband was supposed to do. I just knew he was a good dad. Like I couldn't empathize with her in that. Once I became an adult, I talked about my dad, you know, with her, like their marriage and stuff like that as I got older. And she was like, yeah, he was screwing. I know he was. And, you know, and I apologized. I was like, Mom, I'm sorry. I had no idea this stuff was going on. All I saw was Daddy.
And it wasn't for you to apologize. Like that had nothing to do with you. But her just mentioning that Angel made me think about the episode of Iyanla Fix My Life with Lisa Ray, her mom and her daughter. If y'all haven't saw that, I would suggest you watch it. And that's kind of the whole premise of that. And that is so, so true. How the moms dislike their daughters because they have a good or a better relationship with their dads. I went through that too. Like I'm the spitting image of my dad. I only have my mom's complexion, but I look just like my dad, you know, and it was the same thing. But that, when Angel brought that up, it made me think of that episode and how Lisa Ray's mom, like, kind of despised her because she still loved her dad, even though he wasn't a good husband. But that had nothing to do with the child. He was her dad, and she loved him for being her dad, not for being her mom's husband. And that's not the child's place, you know?
Iyanla got her right together, though, didn't she? She was like, you're just angry because her daddy didn't love you the way she loved her. And did you see her face? She was like, and Lisa Ray was like, and then her mother admitted it. She was like, yes, he loved her more. And Lisa just broke down. Lisa Ray just broke down because a mom and a daughter can't compete for, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so foreign to me. I've always been the person that's like, you can come and get her, you and your girlfriend can come and get your child. Like, I tell your girlfriend to call me. Oh, you don't like me, you hate me, I'm a bitch. Okay, have your girlfriend call me and she could come pick her up. You know what I'm saying? I was never that person because I understand the significance of having a dad in your life. You know what I mean? And I never wanted my kids to grow up like that, but that's powerful. When I watched that episode, and I just watched it the other day, I sat there and I was rocking, girl. I was rocking like, child, if this is not almost everybody's life that I know who has a difficult relationship with their mom. And going through it, it just made me be hypersensitive about being kind to my kids and letting them know that I love them and that I'm here for them. And they can tell me if they feel like I've messed up. And like I said, I would apologize. It would be no, come get the door, please. It would be no, I don't feel no animosity, no resentment for that because my mom never told me sorry for any of the stuff that she did for me, to me, because she felt justified in everything. And I just knew I would never be that parent. I'm going to always let my kids know I make mistakes. I'm a human being. That's why in that episode, you guys need to watch the chapters episode. I discussed I asked the question, do I think it's selfish to have a child as a teenager? Because I feel like bringing AJ into this world, and I was only 17 years old, I was ill-equipped to give her everything that she needed. Oh, Kizzy, hold on, let me let her in. Okay, I feel like I was ill-equipped to give her everything that she needed, but I wanted somebody to love, not necessarily to love me back. I just wanted someone to love, and I wanted to fill that void that I had in me. And it's not fair. It's not fair to put pressure on your kids to be anything for you. It's not their job. And I didn't realize that until I became an adult, you know what I mean? And I see that we do that. We turn our kids into something that's supposed to make us better or make us feel better. And that's not cool. That's not right, you know? So we had a huge discussion / debate about whether or not it's selfish for people to have children if they're ill-equipped to take care of them, even emotionally. You can have all the money in the world and still be ill-equipped to take care of your kids, you know, so.
I wanted to ask, do you think that if you was able to give your daughter a better life when she was born, that the outcome would have been different?
A better life as far as a dad, that's the only thing she was lacking. Everything else, when I say I did it and I had a village, I had friends, you know, that I looked up to that had kids that we would come together and help each other. So I feel like as a mom part, I don't know what more I could have done because she never went without anything. The only place she went to was daycare. But if she had a dad, she wouldn't have had to go to daycare and she wouldn't have been molested. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think about that stuff in hindsight. But then again, you never know. You never think you're going to become a single parent because when you're with that person, they promising you the moon, the stars, the clouds, the something in the mountains. Girl, remember that I give you the word, girl. Like they promise you in the world. And your 17-year-old mind and heart is like, we're going to be together forever. We're going to get married. You know what I mean? And I couldn't separate that. I didn't even think about being a single parent. It didn't even cross my mind. I thought we would raise this child together. So no, it didn't work out like that. So yeah, I think if she would have had her dad, if I had waited, I would still want the same child. I wouldn't want her to be any different. You know, because she'd a spin image of me, little chocolate drop, adorable. You hear me? Just everything, smart, funny, talented. You know, she's a makeup artist and a hairstylist now. She's just she's good at what she does. So I wouldn't wish for another daughter. I wouldn't wish for any other child, but I would want her life to have that father figure. I think that would have been different because I don't think she would have gravitated to my mom like she did if she would have had that other piece, you know. Good question. Yeah. Okay, y'all, we got about 10 minutes. Anybody else want to wrap up or ask me anything else? Michelle, you finna make me go eat. You be making everything look delicious. Y'all don't stress me. I finna eat donuts, drink wine. I'm finna be in a fetal position for the rest of the day. But I loved it though. I'm enjoying it myself. Y'all go ahead.
I gotta eat by a certain time, so I got hungry.
I hear you. I'm looking at this cheesecake that's on my table, so I'm finna get to that quickly.
I don't have anything else to say. I just wanted to say, I just double talk what I just did. But I don't know if you already know, but I'm a social worker too.
I can tell. I can tell, absolutely. Yeah. And it's hard when you have that piece of you as a social worker because you do recognize some of those things and you want to fix them and make things better. And what we do, we're fixers, right? We're fixers. So when we can't fix something, either we go in too hard, you know, and that can push people away too, you know, wanting to fix somebody so hard like that. Don't nobody be wanting to hear that all the time. So I have to, especially since my kids are older now, I give them an opportunity to see how they can fix it themselves instead of trying to step in there and fix everything for them, you know, which is what I was used to doing. And so that also took away the skills for them to be able to fix things themselves because I never let them fight their own battles, you know, and that did them a disservice.
Right. I also was thinking because you are a therapist that your mom would not be open. She's going to probably be closed because you are a therapist. And most of the time, people that you are close with or family members or even in a relationship with, they don't want to be therapized. They don't want you to do therapy on them. So she's probably may have disclosed to somebody else some of the issues, but she may not disclose it to you. One, you're her daughter, and two, you're a therapist as well. So she don't want to be psychoanalyzed.
Right. And it's hard not to do
Right.
because you be looking at people like, child, I know that look
Care
like.
for that diagnosis, almost.
Yes, honey. Child, didn't I read the DSM? I be diagnosing myself. I'm pretty sure I got about 14 of them. Okay. But with my mom, even before I went to school, even before I became a social worker and then a therapist, then a clinical social worker, she still, I think it's just me, and all the reasons why everybody's mentioned, I think it's me. I don't think it matters what my profession was, I just don't think she feeling me, and I hope she does get the help from anybody else. I just want her to enjoy her life too. I want her to wake up and be happy and be free and not be stressed out or, feeling how she must feel every day. I want her to be happy and free, and she's getting old, and I want her to be able to enjoy her life too. Like, that's what I want for my whole family, for everybody, for all of our families. I want everybody to be okay. So I hope.
I know you have to go. I just want to say really quickly, and I noticed you said this a few times, and I know you've letting it go. You've, picked up the pieces, but you said that it must be me. So, I truly hope that you're not blaming yourself. But I just want to make a commentary on relationships with Black women and our mothers. They are complicated. They are tough. I mean, there's literally an article I read, and it said, "Why doesn't my mother like me?" And it was with an African American woman. It's like, and from our generation is what I'm saying. They want us to be, you said teach their daughters, coddle the boys. Like there is the baby boys all day. They love their boys, but for their daughters, I don't know if it's, likeless syndrome. I don't know what it is. They see what they hate. They want us to be tough. They don't want us to be like them. It's so many things that make their relationship so complicated. So, like I said, I just hope that's not something that you're taking on. I know we all have an issue because, again, when it comes to those relationships, it's not you as in something you've done. You've described this from the beginning before you would even cultivate it. So it can't be that. It has to be outside influences. The questions are what? That's something that she has to deal with. But yeah, just Black women and our mothers. I mean, I could write a book about it. I think we are. Honestly,
I think you should.
They are tough. They are tough.
Yeah. And it's crazy because we're the ones.
Even in the best circumstances.
Yes. Yes.
And somebody with a daughter who was a girl dad all day. She's a baby and a girl dad. I see with my mother, I see how she felt in some instances, but also I love how he loves her and I love how she loves him. I love that. I love seeing, you know what I mean? And so my mother, I'm sure she had some resentments, but I mean, it hasn't manifested itself in ugly ways. Like I said, our relationship overall is a good relationship, but even it's still complicated though.
Yes.
It's still complicated.
I'm going to read that article today.
Okay.
But in the studies I've done too, I've seen that because when I say y'all, first of all, I love research. I love reading. So if it's anything that sparks my interest, I go into a rabbit hole like A Beautiful Mind. I be having sticky notes. It'd be real crazy. It's not pretty. Okay. But when I come through, I have a new understanding. But I did research Black women and our mothers. And it's so sad because we're the ones who need that nurturing the most. We're the ones who get the brunt of the stick in every situation. We get blamed for everything. We have the weight of the world on our shoulders. We're not expected to show any vulnerability without being called or considered weak. We can't disclose any of our mental health issues. It's so much. Even this last thing that happened with this white football player that beat the hell out of his Black girlfriend. Have you heard about that? That's not all over the news because it doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter in a global way. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't make the news. So if we can't be there for ourselves and for our daughters and our mothers, it's like, who do we have? You know what I mean? Who do we have? So it's almost like we have to create our own community and just get stronger and learn from their mistakes, because as much as you can't love hate out of somebody. And I used to believe that you could, but you can't love hate out of somebody. And if you keep trying, you're going to kill yourself. You will die, or want to die, because they make you feel worse than you have ever felt about yourself when you allow yourself to be in those toxic relationships. And I'm with you. I love the way fathers love their daughters. And I even love the way mothers love their sons, you know, when they're not calling them and not giving them what they need, right? But I love those relationships. I just feel like it should be given to the girls and to the women too. So it'd be nice if we can have programs for that. I'm sorry, Angela, go ahead.
No. I was just piggyback on what you and Tabitha was saying. I think though sometimes, I mean, I'm saying my age, I don't know, but I think mothers that was born in the 50s, like my mom.
Yeah, my mom was too.
And I think that they were raised that way. Like my grandmother, born in the 20s, didn't really cuddle them. So they didn't know how to cuddle us. But back then, men were the life. So it wasn't that many boys in my family. So they would make their plates for them. But it was like, go make your plate for your male cousin. I'm like, yeah, miss me on that one.
Right.
But I think that they were groomed that way. So like when my grandmother didn't show love to my mother and them, so to speak, with that touchy-feely stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So our mothers, my aunts, they're not touchy-feely with us. But we are overly loving to our kids.
Overly.
So my hope is that our generation, our children, I mean, I know we got to work through things with AJ, and all of us may have some issues with, you know, some of our own children as well. But I think that we are in a different spot where we're loving on our kids so much so that they won't. So our daughters, or your daughters, because I only have boys, will grow up feeling that love and security from their parents that we may not get from ours. Although I know my mom loved me, I knew my grandmother loved me. I loved her unconditionally. She didn't necessarily say, Angie, I love you, my grandmother. But my kids, oh my God, they knew that their great grandmother loved them. You know, and it was just the norm of whatever that sternness of mothers being raised in the South to just move to the North and raising their kids in the North. I don't know. But I do just believe that there's a change in our generation of how we love on our kids, you know, and hopefully boys would, I don't know, as a mother of boys, I think that sometimes it's not the mother that do it. I guess now I'm looking back at like the men, it's like, your mother really didn't do that. It's just naturally in you sometimes for boys to be clingy to their mom or, so I don't know, that's another topic. But I think that, I don't know, I think that we're changing the dynamics for the generations to come. And like Tabitha was saying, she loved the way her daughter is loved on by her dad. So I think if more daughters see that, and more boys see a good love, then the world just changes, right? Because we're changing that generation from how we were. Because none of us are loving on our kids. Like, you're not loving AJ like your mother loved on you. You're trying to love her in 100 ways different, you know? Yeah. And so somewhere in her, prayerfully, she will realize that. So she's loving on her twins the way, you know, she know that you loved on her.
Yeah. You know, oh, that's so good.
It'll come tenfold around my prayer.
I know we got to go, but to what Angela was saying, like our grandparents not loving on our parents.
Yeah.
Do you think that might have something to do with the fact that, well, I don't know about you guys, but my grandma had 12 kids. She had 7 girls, 5 boys. And then she only had one sister. It was just the 2 of them, my grandma and my great aunt. And my great aunt, she had 19 kids. So there's no way you're going to have all these kids like this back to back and be able to cuddle and love on all of them. So do y'all think that have anything to do with it?
Probably.
I believe that could. My grandmother had 3 girls and 1 boy, and all the girls were taught to love on Uncle David. He was their world. Just like you were saying, like, they took care of him, they cooked and cleaned for him. I don't think he ever had to do anything for himself. Even as an adult, when he would come and visit, they just took care of all the men in the family. So like you said, that was something that they were taught to do. But she had 4 kids. So I don't know. I think she worked and they took care of each other. You know what I mean? And I know she took care of them. She loved them. But I think that it was just in that household, everybody had a role and ain't no time to be hugging. You know what I'm saying? You cook, you clean, you take care of David. Like it wasn't time.
I love you, but you knew you were loved. You know what I mean?
That's what my mom said too. She said she didn't say she loved him, but I knew my mom loved me. That's what my mother said. And it's funny because AJ says that. She was like, before this last episode with her and I, she said, Mom could do whatever I want to me, and you can't stop talking to me. She said, I could do whatever I want to you, and you can't stop talking to me because I'm your daughter and you're going to always love me. And I think I instilled that in her, but she took it the wrong way. Right. I told her, no matter what you can do, it won't separate my love from you. You know what I mean? But that don't mean, she took it different than what I meant it. So we need to get some clarity on what I actually meant. That don't mean that you beat me down and be like, see, you still gotta love me. That mean that you can make mistakes and I'm not gonna hold that against you, so we can teach our kids that and it can backfire. So I guess it depends. And kids have their own personalities, like they just do. All of my kids have a different personality, every one of them. And I parent them with the same amount of love, but at the end of the day, they all gonna make the decisions that they want to make. My dad loved me to pieces, and I still did trash stuff. I knew my daddy loved me, and even though he taught me what was right, every time I did something wrong, I think of the Bible verse that my daddy taught me: "Thou shalt not fornicate. Thou shalt not get tattoos on thy body." Like, I would be thinking of the Bible verse and still doing everything I wanted to do. You know what I mean? So you can teach your kids what you want them to know, but ultimately they make that decision, But as long as you instill that in them, you teach a kid the way that they should go, and when they are older, they will not turn away from it. So that's my hope, that I give them enough so when they really need to pull from that, whenever they need it, they'll have it. That's my hope for all of our kids. They can pull back in those resources and get what they need from it.
Hi.
So